What's up my peeps, it is now time for the WWE Fastlane results/highlights and review video. I'll go over the results first, and then give you guys the highlights, my opinion, and also my thoughts, my review on the show. So it kicks off, of course, with the kickoff panel, which was Renee Young, Booker T, Corey Graves, and Byron Saxton to hype up the matches, give their predictions, and then we get Eden interviewing Ryback, Dolph Ziggler, and Erick Rowan about their match tonight. Dolph said that they're standing up for themselves and they're not going to take it anymore. Ryback goes ahead and says that they'll feast on all three of those corporate sellouts. And Rowan goes ahead and says that they've been abused for the last time and that the agents of the authority will be expunged tonight. And then Ryback goes ahead and says, yeah, what he said, big guy out. I like it when he says that, but anyways, a few moments later we get Renee Young interviewing Ambrose about the IC title match he's got tonight, and it was a nice interview. During the interview they'd show like video packages of former IC champions and IC title matches, and basically she asks Ambrose what the Intercontinental Championship means to him, and he says that the IC title isn't looked at the same way it used to be. He goes ahead and puts over former IC champions. He calls it the Workhorse Championship. And he says that Barrett, when asked about Barrett, he says he's one of the toughest guys in the WWE. And then they show like highlights of Barrett hitting the bullhammer. And he said he believes the guy makes the championship. And that there hasn't been a guy that's made the championship in a long time. He says he's going to bust Barrett up and bring the title back to prominence and take it to WrestleMania and heights it's never been on. And then after that, they show an interview in the parking lot where Byron Saxton catches up with Nikki. And basically, she says that she's going to embarrass Paige tonight and calls her a little glass of milk that won't hold the Divas Championship again. Afterwards, we get the Usos answering some Twitter questions, and then we get MIZ TV with special guest Paul Heyman. Of course, he comes out with Mizdow, and he actually tells Mizdow to sit in the corner on the mat in front of the turnbuckle. The Miz then says that he could have been at the Oscars tonight, but he decided to be here because he wanted to see Reigns versus Bryan, and that The Rock is filling in for him anyways at the Oscars. So then he brings out Paul Heyman. First question he asks is Brock going to be here tonight? Heyman says that he understands The Miz is afraid of Brock, and he also calls The Miz not that good of an actor. And then he pretends like he's about to bring out Brock or introduce him, but, he just fooled the crowd. And then Miz says he is a good actor, and that he'll soon win an Oscar. And then he asks Heyman if Brock would prefer to face off against Bryan or Reigns. He says Bryan is about the size of one of Brock's legs. And then he says, but despite that, last year at WrestleMania, he did beat Triple H, and then less than 3 hours later, he beat Batista and Randy at WrestleMania 30. And then Heyman says, if Bryan wins tonight, Brock's not going to be concerned. And then he was about to continue talking, but then he looks at Mizdow and says if Mizdow is with The Miz. And Miz says, yeah, and then Heyman says he doesn't like the way Mizdow's looking at him. So then Miz goes ahead and yells at Mizdow and tells him to turn around and face the turnbuckle. Mizdow kind of gets up and takes off his glasses like he was going to do something, but he doesn't. And the crowd at this point is really chanting for Mizdow to do something, but Mizdow goes ahead and just turns around and faces the turnbuckle. So after that, Heyman goes ahead to talk some more. And he says if Reigns wins, he'll also lose to the reigning, defending, WWE World Heavyweight Champion Brock Lesnar. And then he stops talking because the crowd keeps chanting Mizdow. So he stops for a while, and then once they stop chanting for Mizdow, he says he'll start over. So he goes ahead and starts over and says it doesn't matter who's gonna win because they'll lose to Brock. And you can believe that. And then he leaves, and that was pretty much it for the kickoff. Oh yeah, and also they showed another Sheamus video package for his return. So after the kickoff, it was time for the main show, and it started off with Dolph Ziggler coming out. So the 6-man tag team match was the first match. Dolph came out to a pretty big pop. Rowan came out to, I'd say, pretty much like almost no reaction. Ryback got the second, biggest reaction in the team, after Dolph. And then, of course, Big Show Kane came out, and then Seth Rollins. Now, as far as how the match went, well, early on in the match, Erick Rowan was the legal man as well as the Big Show. And they were fighting on the outside, and then all of a sudden Erick Rowan goes for a spinning heel kick on the Big Show, while Big Show was like right in front of the steel post. Big Show gets out of the way, so Erick Rowan misses the heel kick, and he hits his leg on the steel post. From then on, the heel team kept attacking Erick Rowan's leg and preventing him from tagging in his partners. Rollins even took out Ziggler from the apron so he couldn't tag in Ziggler, but he ended up tagging in Ryback. So once Ryback gets in, he dominates Rollins, and Rollins tries to go for the curb stomp on Ryback, but Ryback counters it with a nice powerbomb. And then Kane gets in the ring, and Ryback goes ahead and he hits him with the meat hook clothesline. And then because of that distraction, Rollins rolls up Ryback. Ryback kicks out. Rollins then follows it up with a super kick. He gets a 2 count, and then after that, Rollins goes up top. He goes for a move from the top, and Ryback catches him in midair into a vertical suplex position, and then he switches it up into the shell shock position and hits the shell shock on Seth Rollins, but then Big Show gets in. He takes out Ryback. So then both Ryback and Rollins, the 2 legal men, are down. Ryback eventually gets to tag in Ziggler. Seth Rollins tags in Kane. Ziggler is on fire in the beginning. He takes it to Kane. He hits a Faymaster on Kane, I think. He even hits a super kick. And then Rollins tries to get involved, but Dolph hits him with the Faymaster. And then the ref gets distracted since he's trying to roll Rollins out the ring because he's not the legal man after the Faymaster. And while he's doing that, Kane is in the corner, and he holds Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler was in the corner too. He holds Dolph Ziggler, above the top rope. He had Dolph's head hanging, to the outside. So Big Show, with the ref's, back turn, goes ahead and hits the KO punch on the outside on Ziggler, and then Kane follows it up with a choke slam for the 3 count. So Dolph, Kane, and Big Show pick up the win, and Kane picks up his first pin in 10 years or something like that. And then after the match, Rollins pretty much curb stops everybody on the other team. Well, he curb stops Dolph Ziggler. Rowan and Ryback try and make the save, but the numbers game is too much because they've also got J&J security there. He also hits a curb stomp on Rowan, and then the crowd starts chanting for Randy. And then Randy comes out. Randy's music hits. He comes out. So that was pretty cool. And he runs towards the ring. He's hitting them all, and then he hits an RKO on Jamie Noble. Joey Mercury goes for a move from the top rope, but Randy catches him in midair with an RKO, and then Seth Rollins tries to get in the ring and attack Randy, but Randy kicks him, and then he drags him for his DDT from in the middle of the ropes. But Big Show grabs Seth Rollins and saves him from the DDT on the outside. And then Randy goes ahead and hits an RKO on Kane in the ring. And then Seth Rollins, he just runs off. He runs away. We see him running backstage, and then we see him running in the parking lot. He's just out of there, out of the arena. And Randy's music hits. The crowd cheers, and that was it for that. We then get a backstage segment with Goldust and Dusty Rhodes talking. And he says no matter what happens out there tonight, he loves them both. And Goldust says that tonight, he's going to have to beat Stardust. He's not going to beat Cody, but he's going to beat Stardust so bad that that the thought of putting on a costume and face paint, is no longer appealing to him. He doesn't want to do that anymore. Basically, he says he has to beat him tonight, beat some sense into him so that he doesn't want to be Stardust anymore. And then he hugs Dusty, and that was it for that segment. After that, Cody comes out, and he actually comes out without the top. He's wearing the tights, but he's not wearing the usual Stardust top. He's got the face paint though. And then Goldust comes out, and the match starts. And throughout the match, Stardust would say things like, who's your favorite now, or who's your favorite son, or whatever. I guess directed to his dad. But anyways, the match ends when Cody goes where Stardust goes for the crossroads. But then Goldust gets out of it, and then he rolls up Cody, and he gets the 3 count, kind of, because the referee counts to 3. But I am positive that Cody kicked out before the 3 count. It looked to me like he kicked out and the match was going to continue, but then the ref was like, he signaled for the bell, and the bell rang, and the match was over, and Goldust won. But they even showed the replay, and in the replay it showed that Stardust kicked out at like a few, I don't know, like right before 3. So it was kind of a botch, but anyways, yeah, Goldust wins the match. After the match, he tries to shake Cody's hand, but Cody doesn't shake it, and he just gets out the ring. And then after that, backstage, we see Cody and Goldust, and Goldust tells Dusty, he tried not to hurt Cody, and then Stardust catches up to them, and he starts yelling, "Oh, so there's a family party and I'm not invited?" And then he attacks Goldust, and Dusty is yelling at him to stop, and he says Cody when, he tells him to stop, and then Stardust goes ahead and says, "Cody, oh, you killed Cody. You killed Cody when you brought in, Goldust." And then he brings up Cody, you mean Cody Rhodes, the breakout star of the Legacy, and he brings out, pretty much his achievements as Cody. And anyways, he goes ahead and says that you're living in my shadow, I'm not living in yours. And then he kicks Goldust and leaves. We then get the Tag Team Championship match. It's the Usos versus Cesaro and Tyson Kidd. There was a cool spot in the match where one of the Usos went ahead and he hit the Flying Uso on Cesaro. That's not the cool spot. But after that, the other Uso goes ahead and tries to go for a move on Tyson Kidd. I guess a baseball slide. But Kidd dodges, and then Kidd goes ahead and gets on the apron, and then he jumps on the other Uso, and the other Uso catches him in like a Samoan drop position and hits the Samoan drop, but onto the barricade. I liked it because it was something new. And anyways, the match ended shortly after when Tyson Kidd won the match with his finisher, with the Fisherman Neckbreaker. And Cesaro and Kidd are the new tag team champions. I predicted that the Usos were going to retain the titles here, but I'm happy I was wrong. I'm happy that Cesaro and Kidd won the tag team titles. I look forward to seeing their reign as champions. And following that, it was time for the Triple H and Sting segment where Triple H calls out Sting. So he goes ahead, calls him out, Sting comes out, and then he talks about WCW and how Sting backed up the wrong horse. And he also says, he praises Sting, and he says that he respects him, he respects what he did. He thinks that Sting was WCW. He said that the ship sailed, and guys like him, Triple H, are the ones that made that ship sail. And he talks about Sting's legacy, and that he can give Sting his legacy back if Sting just walks away from the ring and puts this all behind them. And he says that, I'll ensure that your legacy lives on through the WWE Network, DVDs, action figures, and that in 2015 Sting will be better than ever, bigger than ever, and that he might even put him in the Hall of Fame. Or they could do it the other way, and then Triple H takes off his jacket. Sting wasn't talking at all. He said something later on in the segment, but he didn't talk on the microphone. Anyways, so Triple H takes off his jacket in case, Sting wants to do it the other way. And he says he's going to beat what's left out of Sting's legacy tonight, like he never even existed. And he tells Sting, the choice is yours. And then he goes ahead and tries to punch Sting, and Sting counters it. He gets the better of Triple H until Triple H hits Sting with the microphone on the head. And then he goes ahead and stomps on Sting. And then he goes to the outside, and we know what's about to happen next. He goes ahead and grabs the sledgehammer from under the ring, and the crowd pops for that. He gets in the ring with the sledgehammer, and then at this point, I'm like, oh, I think I know what's coming next. I think we're going to see Sting bring out the bat, and I didn't realize this at first, but this is kind of like, the bat versus the sledgehammer. So anyways, Sting does bring out the bat, and he puts the bat, right under Triple H's chin, so Triple H, backs off and puts his hands up, and Sting backs him up in the corner until Triple H drops his sledgehammer, and then Sting still has the bat under Triple H's chin, and then he points with the bat towards the WrestleMania sign, and Triple H says, "You want me at Mania?" And then he says, "Alright, you got it, it's your funeral." And then Sting puts the bat back under Triple H's chin, and then Sting says, "I'll see you at Mania." And that's pretty much all he said. And then he goes ahead and tries to leave, but Triple H tries to cheap shot him, tries to attack him from behind. Sting sees it coming, so he turns around and hits Triple H in the gut with the bat. and then he goes ahead and hits the Scorpion Death Drop on Sting. I mean, not on Sting. I mean, on Triple H. And that was it for this segment. I was actually expecting, once Sting hit Triple H with the bat to the gut, Triple H went down. I was expecting Sting to go for the Scorpion Deathlock, but no, he went for the Scorpion Death Drop. And yeah, that was it. After that, it was the Divas Championship match, Nikki Bella versus Paige. And I'm not trying to be negative, but whenever I notice a botch, I just gotta point it out. It wasn't anything, I guess, too big. Well, anyways, Paige went for that roll-up where it's a roll-up, but usually she has her opponent hit the bottom turnbuckle, hit their head on the bottom turnbuckle. So she tried that on Nikki, but they were kind of, I guess, a bit too far maybe from the bottom turnbuckle, so Nikki just kind of rolled onto the mat. Her head didn't hit the turnbuckle or anything, and I think King covered that up by saying that Paige was just trying to get away from Nikki. But anyways, a bit later in the match, we get a sunset flip powerbomb from the top rope from Nikki onto Paige, and she covers her. She only gets a 2 count. And then shortly after, Nikki tries to lock in the PTO on Nikki. I mean, Paige tries to lock it. Did I say Nikki tries to lock it in? Anyways, Paige tries to lock in the PTO on Nikki, but she only manages to lock in the legs, and then she tries to get Nikki's arms, but Nikki's slowly crawling towards the ropes, and she eventually crawls towards the ropes and grabs the ropes before Paige could also lock in the arms. And then a few seconds later, Paige charges Nikki in the corner. Nikki gets out the way and shoves Paige face first onto the middle turnbuckle, and then she rolls up Paige and grabs the tights, gets the 3 count, ref doesn't see it, and retains the Divas Championship. After the match, the commentators make it official, or announce that it's official now. It's going to be Triple H versus Sting at WrestleMania 31, and then we get the Intercontinental Championship match, Bad News Barrett versus Dean Ambrose. Now, when they came to the finish of this match, it was really disappointing. Anyways, so I'm gonna give you guys the, I guess, ending of the match, or the ending highlights. So, by the way, Ambrose did a really nice rebound clothesline. It was a perfect rebound clothesline, and the sound it made, man, it was sounded stiff. It was a nice clothesline. You know, it was like doc when he hit the anyways. So he hits the rebound clothesline on Barrett, and I think it was right after Barrett hit a big boot on Ambrose, and he rebounded off of that. And then he went for dirty deeds on Barrett, but Barrett gets out of it, and then he gets out of the ring. He asks where his championship is, grabs it, and then he tries to walk away, but Ambrose stops him by hitting a suicide dive on Barrett. Now, when he went for the suicide dive on Barrett, Barrett was facing Ambrose with the championship, so I was expecting maybe Barrett to hit him with the championship while, you know, in the air, I guess, you know, to stop Ambrose mid-suicide dive. But no, Ambrose connects with the suicide dive, and at that point I'm like, okay, maybe, you know, it's not going to be a DQ. Because, you know, Barrett did not hit him with the championship mid-suicide dive. So then he brings Barrett back in the ring, and then he starts working on Barrett, and he starts attacking him in the corner. Barrett tries to get away once again from the corner. So Barrett is down in the corner, and Dean Ambrose starts stomping on him. He's pissed off that, you know, Barrett keeps trying to leave. And then the referee's trying to back Ambrose away, and he's counting, and he gets to 5, and that's it. The ref calls for the bell, and it's a DQ. DQ win for Barrett, so Barrett retains the championship, and then Ambrose keeps on attacking Barrett, and then referee kind of pulls him back, and Ambrose then goes ahead and hits Barrett with dirty deeds. He gets out of the ring, and the crowd is really booing at this point, you know, because of the DQ finish. And then Ambrose gets back in the ring after dirty deeds, and he grabs the championship, and he leaves with the Intercontinental title. But yeah, man, I was really hoping for like a clean finish. Well, I wouldn't even say clean finish. I was just hoping for, you know, a pinfall win. I was disappointed with the DQ there, and that means Ambrose still has yet to win a pay-per-view match. But anyways, After that, The Undertaker's music hits, and people are expecting Taker, the crowd pops, then the Druids come out, and I'm thinking, I think we'll see Bray Wyatt troll the crowd here. And so the Druids bring out a casket, and I'm thinking, oh, I think Bray Wyatt's going to come out of that casket, and he does. So once he does, the crowd boos. And anyways, he cuts a promo on Taker, talks about how he used to fear Taker. But now, Undertaker's like everybody here is like a mere mortal, and that he doesn't fear him anymore because Bray Wyatt is pain, Bray Wyatt is suffering. And he goes ahead and ends the promo by saying that at WrestleMania, he's going to claim the soul of The Undertaker. And then he goes back in the casket, and the Druids close the lid on him. And then we go to the kickoff panel, who will go over what just happened. And then after that, we get like a video package for the Rousseff and John Cena feud, because the match is up next. It's Rousseff versus Cena for the US title. The match starts off right off the bat with Cena going for a punch on Rousseff. He punches Rousseff and right off the bat goes for a pin, but of course Rousseff kicks out right away, and then Cena, follows that up with a headlock. But now, moving on to some bigger points, or bigger parts in the match. You had John Cena go for the AA, but Rousseff got out of it, and he countered it with a DDT. John Cena kicked out. And then after that, John Cena started, building up momentum. He hits the shoulder tackles, he hits the spin-out back suplex, the five knuckle shuffle, and then he goes for the attitude adjustment once again. But Rousseff, again, gets out of it, and he shoves him towards the ropes. Cena comes bouncing back, and Rousseff hits him with a super kick, but he only gets a 2 count. And then John Cena tries to go for the STF, but Rousseff pushes him off, and then he hits him with a spinning side slam. Not the type that Luke Harper does or Barrett does, but the one where it starts off, the one that Rousseff does, where he starts off in a fallaway slam position and then turns it into a side slam. Anyways, after that, Cena actually hit a tornado DDT from the second rope onto Rousseff. And then Rousseff went for another spinning side slam, but Cena countered it into a crossface. Rousseff powdered out of it, and then Rousseff, he went to go for the accolade, and you know how before the accolade he stomps on the back? Well, he goes for the stomp, but John Cena grabs his foot, and then he puts him in the STF, but eventually Rousseff gets to the ropes, so Cena has to break it. And then Rousseff goes for a super kick, but John Cena dodges it, and he hits the attitude adjustment on Rousseff, but Rousseff kicks out at 2.5. And then John Cena goes for the Faymacer from the top rope, and Rousseff actually catches him in midair and turns it into a powerbomb. And then right after, he locks in the accolade, and John Cena stays in it for a bit, but eventually he powers out of it with Rousseff on his back. And then, all of a sudden, while Rousseff is still on Cena's back, Lana gets in the ring with the US title. And the referee is distracted with that, so, he's telling her to get out of the ring. And Rousseff gets off Cena's back. He goes ahead, low blows John Cena, and then he super kicks John Cena once again. And at this point, I'm thinking he's going to pin Cena and get the win that way. But actually, he puts in the accolade once again. And at this point, John Cena is unconscious. He got knocked out from the super kick, so he doesn't tap, but they call the match, and Rousseff wins via submission. So in some ways, this is John Cena's first, submission loss, or first tap out. He didn't tap out, but his first submission loss in I think over 10 years. So yeah, Rousseff wins via submission, or via pass out. I didn't think they were gonna go with the pass out method again. I thought he was gonna get the win with a pin off of a couple super kicks. I thought they were gonna emphasize on Cena's injured eye, but no. So yeah, Rousseff wins and is still the United States champion. After the match, they check on Cena, and Cena gets back up, and, he walks to the back. And then it was time for the main event, Reigns versus Bryan. They show a video package first, and then Roman Reigns comes out first. He comes out to, in the beginning, a bit of cheers, and then a little bit of boos, but to be honest, I think it was mostly cheers. So, I guess you could say kind of a mixed reaction, but the thing is, the crowd, for the majority of the show, wasn't very loud. So when they're not very loud, it's also a bit harder to, make up whether it was like a mixed reaction or, I mean, mostly positive or negative. But I'd say, he definitely wasn't getting booed as much as, at the Rumble. So anyways, Bryan comes out next. Crowd chants yes with Bryan. He doesn't get booed, but right when he made his entrance, or right when his music hit, when they were showing the crowd, there were two guys up top. You could see with the camera, two guys up top in the crowd that were doing the no sign that Bryan used to do. So I guess they were supporting Reigns. But anyways, those two. Anyways, so Bryan gets in the ring. This was a really good match. This was definitely Roman Reigns' best match. Anyways, I'll go over some of the highlights. Reigns hit a powerbomb on Bryan from the second rope, and Bryan kicked out. And then Bryan, shortly after, he hit a back suplex. And by the way, Reigns hit that powerbomb when Daniel Bryan was trying to go for the Hurricane Rana, or Frankensteiner, I should say, from the top rope. Reigns countered that into a powerbomb. And then after that, Daniel Bryan hit a back suplex from the top rope onto Roman Reigns. They had a bunch of cool exchanges in the match. At some point when Bryan was going for his kicks, when he went for the last one, Reigns caught the kick, and then he just stared at Bryan, and he got up, still holding Bryan's leg, and then Bryan started slapping him. And I think it's at that point where Reigns he clotheslined Bryan out the ring, and he threw him onto the apron, onto the barricade, and then he threw him finally onto the barricade once again. Actually, he shoved him onto the barricade first, and then shoved him onto the apron, and then threw him onto the barricade, and then put him back in the ring. And they had at one point when they were both down, and the ref was counting. They both sat up. Not sat up like The Undertaker, but they were both kind of sitting down, and Reigns was striking him with forearms while Bryan was kicking him. Eventually, Bryan got the better of that encounter and started kicking Reigns a bunch of times. He got over 10 kicks in maybe. And when Reigns would hit those forearms on Bryan, they looked pretty stiff. I mean, they were like the one he hit on Bryan on Raw. And he hit a bunch of them during the match. But anyways, at some point in the match, Bryan takes Reigns to the outside. He goes for a suicide dive, he hits it. Goes for a second one, hits it. And then Reigns starts crawling, and at this point he's at the other side of the ring, the side that's facing the ramp. He gets up, and then Bryan goes for a third suicide dive. And, at the third one, I was like, alright, this one's going to get countered. And it did get countered. Reigns got Bryan, and he hit an overhead belly-to-belly suplex. And then Bryan started getting back up, and right behind him was the steps. So Reigns goes for a spear. Bryan steps out the way and shoves Reigns towards the steps, so Reigns pretty much spears the steps. And then the referee starts counting. They're both down. Bryan gets back in the ring first. Bryan actually gets back in the ring at the count of 8, while Reigns gets back in the ring at the count of 9. And it was very close to 10. I'd say maybe might have been the closest count to 10 ever. When he got back in the ring, I was like, whoa, that was really close to 10. But anyways, Daniel Bryan, right after they got back in the ring, Daniel Bryan goes up top on the top turnbuckle, and he goes for something. And Reigns catches him in midair with a Superman punch. That was the second Superman punch of the match. The first one was unsuccessful. First one he went for, Daniel Bryan caught him with a kick to the kidney. And during this match, Daniel Bryan, in the beginning, he worked the hamstring, and Roman Reigns' leg, but then he started working the kidney. And then they brung up, Roman Reigns' surgery. And anyways, so he caught him with the Superman punch in midair. And then went for the cover. Daniel Bryan kicked out. And then he tried to follow that up with a spear. But Bryan countered it with a roll-up. And Reigns kicks out at 2. Bryan then goes for the running knee. And he actually connects with it. I was expecting Reigns to counter it just like Bryan countered the spear. But no, Bryan connects with the running knee, goes for the cover, and Reigns kicks out at 2.5. So Reigns kicked out over the running knee, and they bring up the fact that this is the first person that's kicked out of the running knee. And shortly after, Daniel Bryan puts in the S-lock, but Reigns gets out of it. And then Bryan goes for another submission hold. He goes for an armbar this time, some sort of armbar submission. But Reigns powers out of it too. Well, he grabs Daniel Bryan, or, while Daniel Bryan has Reigns' arm, Reigns picks him up in a powerbomb position like Sheamus did to Del Rio once when Del Rio was trying to lock in the cross arm breaker, and then Sheamus picked him up. And so, just like that, and he hits him with the powerbomb. And it's at this point where they're both down in the ring, referee's counting, and they're slowly getting back up. And it's at this point where Reigns starts hitting the forearms, and Daniel Bryan starts hitting the kicks. Daniel Bryan wins, or, he he ends up getting the advantage and starts hitting a bunch more kicks to Reigns. And then he follows it up with one big kick to the head. And then he prepares for, once again, the running knee. He goes for it, runs towards Reigns, but Reigns catches him out of nowhere with a spear, covers him. 1, 2, 3. So Reigns gets the win after the spear, and he's going to go on to WrestleMania 31 to face off against Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. After the match, Reigns, he was still selling, and Daniel Bryan, he looked pissed off. So Reigns gets up, and Daniel Bryan gets up too. Daniel Bryan goes ahead, face-to-face with Reigns. He turns him around, and then he points at him, or shows his finger on Reigns' chest, and he's like, "You better kick his ass," referring to kicking Brock Lesnar's ass at WrestleMania. And then he extends his hand, and Roman Reigns shakes it, and the crowd didn't like the handshake. They booed. They were louder for, these boos, for the handshake boos, than, during Reigns' entrance. And then Bryan leaves, Roman Reigns celebrates, and right away they show the graphic for Brock Lesnar versus Reigns, indicating that it's official now. It is going to be Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. After the match, I was hoping that Brock Lesnar would come out and we'd have a face-to-face or something like that, but Lesnar didn't come out. But, yeah, so that ends the show. Oh, yeah, and also they showed the graphic once again of Triple H versus Sting. Michael Cole says it's the match we never thought would happen. And that's pretty much it. So, what about my thoughts on the show, and what were the highlights in my opinion? Well, first highlight for me was Randy making his return and, delivering a bunch of RKOs. You know how oftentimes... Well, I wouldn't say it's that often, but, there's a bunch of times where a certain superstar is out of action. He's been out of action for a while, and the people are expecting his return, and you get a beatdown or something like that, and the people in that beatdown somehow involves that superstar that's been out of action for a while, and the people are expecting him or are hoping for him, and they start cheering for him, but... a lot of times also that person doesn't come out, but this time the crowd was cheering for Randy. They wanted Randy to come out there for the save, and Randy came out there for the save. He made his return and delivered a bunch of RKOs. Loved the RKO on Joey Mercury where he jumped and Randy hit the RKO in midair. It was definitely a cool moment. And the second highlight I'd say is the main event. The main event, I thought was a really good match. I thought it was the best match of the show. Main event, I'm going to say right now, I thought was the match of the night. Now, some people, might be pissed maybe that Reigns won. Maybe they're not happy. They wanted Bryan to win. I mean, me, the thing is, I was fine with Reigns winning because I knew that Bryan was going to win the match. I went into it knowing that Bryan's not going to win this. I went into it thinking, alright, either Reigns wins or it's going to be a no contest. It ended up being that Reigns won. And at WrestleMania, see, I don't know if Reigns versus Brock is going to be, a great match. But if somebody's going to beat Brock at WrestleMania, I would prefer it being a one-on-one match. Rather than the person that beats Brock Lesnar beats him in a triple threat match. I would much rather it be a one-on-one match, so we're going to get that. Like I said, don't know if the match, is going to be good or not, but the match itself, this match, Bryan versus Reigns, I thought it was a really good match. Definitely Roman Reigns' best match so far, and now that Reigns is getting the match with Brock, I'm thinking Bryan's either going to get a match with Ziggler or Sheamus. Possibly Ziggler after the tweet that, Ziggler tweeted out today, or actually yesterday technically. But, so I think it's going to be Bryan versus Ziggler. We'll see. As far as the other matches, the six-man tag team match was, to be honest, I didn't really enjoy the six-man tag team match all that much. I guess because whether, the face team won or the heel team won, I guess does it really matter? The match felt like, just a match to give these guys, a spot on the card. Because really, like I said, the outcome wouldn't have really mattered, because at the end of the day, like Seth Rollins, he's going to face off against Randy at WrestleMania, and Dolph Ziggler probably will face off against Daniel Bryan. As far as Ryback, Erick, Rowan, Big Show came, I'm not too sure, but anyways, we'll see. But yeah, wasn't too into the six-man tag team match, and it was kind of the same thing with the Goldust and Stardust match. I guess maybe because I've gotten tired of the Stardust gimmick. Hopefully he goes back soon to being Cody, which I think he will. Then when it comes to the tag team title match, the Usos versus Cesaro and Kid, the Usos have had better title matches in, some of the past pay-per-views. Their matches with the Wyatt family was much better than this one. I felt they could have had, a much better match, the Usos, Cesaro, and Tyson Kidd. But for some reason, it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't as good as some of the other matches the Usos fought in when they were the tag team champs. So that match was also, disappointing. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying the tag team title match was bad, because it wasn't. It's just, I was expecting a better match out of it. And also, what else was there? The Divas Championship match, Nikki Bella versus Paige. It was okay. To be honest, I think I liked that match more than the Goldust and Stardust match. I was more interested in the Divas match, which usually isn't the case, but, oh yeah, and also, then I mentioned that, I think I mentioned that Paige, I don't know if it was Paige or Nikki that messed it up, maybe both, but, Paige was going for that roll-up where the opponent hits their head, the back of their head, onto the bottom turnbuckle. It didn't really work out, and then after that, you had the Dean Ambrose versus Bad News Barrett. Man, I was so disappointed with the finish of that match, especially after the interview with Ambrose. I mean, it was a really cool interview with, them with some music in the background, and they were showing former IC champions like Bret Hart, and it really looked like they were setting up for, this big cool moment where Ambrose wins the title later on, and I was all excited for it after, watching that interview with Ambrose talking about the IC championship and how he's going to make the championship what it used to be and all that. I was getting really excited. I was like, yes, bring back, some value to the IC title. And then they end the match in a DQ. That was the biggest disappointment, in terms of finish on the card, and it wasn't even that cool of a DQ. It wasn't a cool DQ at all. It was just Ambrose stomping on Barrett in the corner while Barrett was trying to get away. That was a lame finish. And it wasn't even Barrett that got DQ'd or anything like that. At least, if Barrett hit Ambrose with the title or something like that, maybe that would have been a little bit better. Although it still would have been a lame finish. It's still, I really wanted, a clean finish in that match. Whether Barrett won, via Bullhammer, or Ambrose won via Dirty Deeds. Although I would have preferred Ambrose winning. Ambrose lost, once again on a pay-per-view, by DQ. So he's yet to win a pay-per-view match. So, first off, it definitely looks like the feud is going to continue, with Ambrose obviously taking the championship from Barrett. It's got to continue. And it looks like they're saving Ambrose's first pay-per-view win since the breakup with The Shield for WrestleMania. And I guess the DQ was so that Ambrose, doesn't lose another match. Although he did lose, but, by DQ, so I guess he doesn't get pinned again on pay-per-view. Now, moving on to what I thought was the second best match of the night, Rousseff versus John Cena. I enjoyed that match. I really did. And I was surprised at the finish. I know John Cena did not tap out, but he still lost via submission, or at least Eden said, he won via submission. I I really expected that Rousseff would win the match via super kick because of, you know, Cena coming out there a couple weeks ago with, you know, the black guy. I thought Rousseff was going to work on that. Maybe super kick him like right under his eye or something like that. But no, they went with the accolade finish, the pass out accolade finish, which I also thought they weren't going to use it because they've used it a bunch of times now. Rousseff made Swagger pass out to it. He made Mark Henry pass out to it. He made Sheamus pass out to it. I believe Big Show also might have passed out to it. I remember on the pay-per-view where he faced off against the Big Show lost via submission, but it wasn't really visible whether he tapped out or passed out when they faced off on pay-per-view. So, you know, Rousseff's made a bunch of superstars tap out to the accolade. Now, as far as the segments on the show, let's start off with the MIZ TV segment with Paul Heyman. I enjoyed that, mainly for Mizdow. Wanted to see what Mizdow would do, if maybe Mizdow would, you know, finally, you know, get enough of the Miz and hit him or something like that. But that didn't happen, but, you know, enjoyed the segment. And then the Sting and Triple H segment, I like that too, but I kind of wish Sting would have talked more. I mean, you know, kind of wished he grabbed the mic and said something, but the only thing he said was, "See you at WrestleMania," and that wasn't even with the microphone. But definitely did like the bat versus the sledgehammer part, where Triple H brings out the sledgehammer, and up until that point, up until Triple H, you know, got in the ring, I didn't think about the whole, you know, bat versus sledgehammer thing, where, you know, they've both got, you know, these signature weapons. Sting the bat, Triple H the sledgehammer, so pretty cool. And I was actually expecting Triple H to get the better of Sting in that segment. I was expecting him to maybe hit a pedigree on Sting, and once he grabbed the sledgehammer, I was thinking, oh, maybe he's just gonna hit him with the sledgehammer. So yeah, that was also kind of a surprise where, you know, Sting got the better of Triple H once again with the Scorpion Death Drop. So that's about it. As far as a rating for tonight's show, see, there was only two matches I really enjoyed: the Rousseff and John Cena match, and the Reigns vs. Bryan match. Apart from those two, I could have done without the other matches. So, and, you know, I did enjoy the segments, though. So for that, I'm going to give the show a 5.5 to 6 on 10. Because I'm not sure whether to give it, I guess, the passing grade. Although some might consider, you know, 5 the passing grade. I consider 6 the passing grade. So, yeah, I'd say from anywhere from 5.5 to 6 on 10. So anyways, what did you guys think about Fastlane? Let me know which match you enjoyed the most. For me, it was definitely Reigns vs. Bryan. Really enjoyed that match. And I thought Rousseff vs. Cena was a good match too. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, as always, you can click that like button down below. Expect a supercard video from me tomorrow or Tuesday. I'll be showing you guys the People's Champion Challenge results, what I got, also the King of the Ring results, and my Survivor Fusion card. So, with that said, I'm out, guys. See ya.